O vídeo já está online? Já tá.
Tudo bom, professora? Fica à vontade, professora.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here, right, for coming for this interesting event. Given the heavy rain in São Paulo, our lecturer is still to arrive, right? He's stuck in the traffic, but it's very close. So we'll wait for some minutes. His presentation has already been uploaded, right? So we should start as soon as he gets here. I am a Professor Jorge Carneiro. I'm the academic director of the One MBA program, which is a global executive MBA, a consortium, put together by a consortium of 5 business schools, right, in 5 different countries. You have the folder there, and you have another folder, which is of another senior program that FGV offers, which is called C-Level, right? While One MBA is fully in English, right? The C-Level is in Portuguese, right? But also for, senior managers and executives, right? So what I'll do is that we have some. We have an online broadcast, which was designed for people outside São Paulo. So we're broadcasting to South America, right? And you are broadcasting to some people also in Rio de Janeiro and cities in outside São Paulo, right? And in fact, we had a record of registration for this event. We had 240, right? 240 people register for the event, which is actually a very good number. Usually 1/3 comes, right? That's usual. So, but since because of the rain, maybe fewer people come. So I made the decision to release the online broadcasting to other people. We just did that, right? 2 minutes ago, we released the broadcast to other people. So, because if people are not on their way, they probably gave up on coming. But usually we don't broadcast online unless we just do that for outside of São Paulo, because I think it's much more interesting to be here and to come and to enjoy the lecture here, right? Okay. So what I'll do while our lecturer is not here, yes, Ricardo. We'll be here in 2 minutes, right? Okay. So, but I'll show a short video about the One MBA. Is the microphone okay? Is that okay? So, Thiago, let me see. Where's the video here? Is this one here? Oh, it's clear.
Morning, guys. Putting myself in a big state because shit is about to go down here. Morning, guys.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
When it's your time to step up and become a global leader, then become one. Shape the next 20 years of your career. Develop a global vision on business. Gain strategic leadership skills and deepen your understanding of the world's big trends. In a 21-month truly global MBA curriculum at 5 renowned business schools on 4 continents. Rethink who you are as a leader and develop the cultural sensitivity you need to succeed anywhere. Learn about the business realities in your own region during local residencies. Lead the change by experiencing it right where it happens during 4 global residencies. Become part of a prestigious international community of established business leaders and entrepreneurs ready to share their talent, network, and advice with you. Your career has taken you far. Now it's time to go even further.
Okay, so this is a brief introduction about what the MBA is, and let me introduce you. Felipe Faria, he is our student, right? Felipe, yeah, almost finished. Should be finishing in May.
MBA is the world's most innovative global executive and
Okay. So Felipe, you shall be able to talk to you about the program, right? But it's going to be. Felipe is a lawyer, right? And has a managerial position, right? An executive position, right, at a power generation company. So what I'll do now, Laurent, please. Okay, Laurent. We are very glad that we're able to arrive.
So much. I finally made it. Huh?
Okay, yeah. So this is our lecture, Laurent Kabbabe. So what I'll do is pass the microphone over to Laurent, right? And you'll introduce yourself, right? And then at the end, I'll be glad to talk about the One MBA, to give more details, how we actually shape global leaders and what specific skills we advance, right? We are much more on the behavior and social side of leadership. Of course, technical skills are also important, and we tackle them, but we, much more than most of the other executive MBAs in the world, we actually address and engage you in developing your behavioral skills, psychological skills, and social skills, right? So I'll talk more about that later. And some of the dilemmas or challenges that Laurent is going to talk to us today here are, of course, let's say, experienced by other executives, and in the One MBA we learn how to deal with that. Of course, there's not a single universal answer to how to solve complex problems. So in the One MBA, we learn how to deal with uncertainty, to make decisions in the absence of clear facts. We learn that there's always positive and negative outcomes to any complex decision, and not making a decision is already making a decision, which may not be the best way. So we have to learn how to live with our fear and to get to the possible solution, right, and engage people with us and lead a team. So in the beginning, you are leads. We start our career leading ourselves, right? Then we became managers. We start leading others. Then, as we move on in our career, we start leading other leaders, right? When we become a director, right? And maybe at the end of the career, right, or a higher point in your career, you may become the leader of a full organization, right? And each step entails challenges of a different nature. And on the One MBA, we learn how to deal with that, right? Okay? So, Laurent, please, thank you very much, and you are the star now. Okay.
If I may,
You write that I bring something first? Okay, so I'll do that. So Laurent suggests, because of the fact some people are still coming here, so I'll show another video that explains more about the One MBA, and not only that, it gives us the flavor of a real experience, because this video shows students at work, right, in global residencies, because we have 4 global residencies that cover 7 countries. The first one is in São Paulo, which is the opening week. This is the one we're going to show you now, the opening week of the class that started last year. A primeira. É a minha. O meu vídeo.
vídeo primeiro.
O vídeo. one MBA is more than an executive MBA. We are truly global. The globalness of one MBA comes from several aspects. First, we are a consortium of leading business schools from 5 countries: Brazil, the Netherlands, United States, China, and Mexico. These 5 schools recruit students that typically in class come from more than 20 different nationalities, and a regular one MBA class has around 100 students who work in global teams for 21 months. So they learn about how to make decisions cross-culturally, how to negotiate. So the behavioral aspects and social aspects are very important to the one MBA.
Being here in the one MBA and having executives coming from schools that are located in 4 different countries, it's just a fantastic experience.
I'm doing the program because I work in a very international environment. I work in a startup. The company is growing and I personally want to grow as fast as the company, and working with different nationalities will help me to get there.
They very much improve in their leadership abilities, their self-awareness, their decision-making capacity.
So far the experience has been great. The FGV has been very welcoming with the local students. It's been really interesting to learn more about Brazil from an economic point of view, from a cultural point of view, from a demographic point of view.
They have also access to entrepreneurs, some of them former one MBA students, and they visit companies where they learn about business practice that work well and don't work well in that region. They also do a social immersion in some countries, right? And they also learn about corporate social responsibilities.
So far, it's been less than a week and it's been a wonderful experience. And just getting to know real companies that are doing everything so innovative has been a really eye-opener for me.
And while they're here together for the first time face-to-face, we walk through activities that are team-building activities, a checklist on things you should be thinking about when you're going to be working at a distance from each other, but also things like team charters. What are some agreements on how you're going to work as a team? So we work through those, and then it makes the work smoother, but the challenges are still there.
You need to leave and to get to know how they think, how they act, how they make business, how they relate with each other.
So it's a good opportunity for us to improve ourselves and to clean all what experience we have before, and then participate in this time's learning experience.
Personally, it's a really good way to scale up.
So with One MBA, as we're working to prepare these individuals to be global leaders, we're helping them sort of become extra sensitive.
I'm very happy to do this because I'm working in a multinational company, and this melting pot helps me to grow and to be a better person.
As it gets more experience, it gets more academic density around it. It's growing as a field of studies and research.
Today's experience, I think we had to absorb a lot of information.
We're introducing the students to this concept of mega trends, those things that are going on right now today around the world.
A mega trend is very important for everybody to understand how the past, the present, and the future are connected.
Throughout their One MBA journey, they can expect that we will spend time going into detail, diving deep into each one of these mega trends.
Well, I think compliance has experiencing a boom that is a result of this heightened care and importance given to reputation and to being good corporate citizens.
The level of the students is amazing, questions were amazing. The energy that the group have, it's unbelievable.
We had a very, very productive day. The teams enjoyed it very much. We are all extremely tired now. It was so much fun. It was lovely to be here today. Thank you.
The One MBA program is not like your regular MBA. It is a truly global MBA program, and my expectations are aligned with such a global perspective. I expect to learn from all of the different executives and directors all around the world, and that's what makes it truly special.
Okay, so this was a global residency, right? We have 4 of those along the program. The program lasts for 21 months, and we visit 7 countries. So Brazil, Mexico, the United States, China, India, the Netherlands, and Poland, right? In each of these countries, we have this lectures by business persons, executives, public policy makers, academics, also entrepreneurs. Usually the entrepreneurs that come are former 1MBA students, right? Actually, one of the company visits that was there, it was the warehouse of a French company. In Brazil, it's called the Obramax, right? But it's one of the largest retail companies in the world, right? And the CFO is French, right? He graduated in one MBA in 2017, right? And he led the students through the operations, okay? Now, we saw there also some games and some, let's say, funny activities. That's part of the learning, right? So to learn leadership skills, to learn how to deal with complex problems that don't have a clear answer, many times we play games, right? Where these, challenges emerge and you have to come to a solution. There is also an activity about self-awareness, where you learn what your weaknesses are, your strengths are, and how you can upgrade yourself, right? And that should be part of your program. And we come back to that after every residency. So we start with the opening week of residency in Brazil, right? Then students have classes in their local schools. So students recruited by FGV have a class at FGV, and look, we recruit students from very different nationalities. The class that started last year has a Nigerian, a Colombian, a North American, an Argentinian, and there's somebody else. North American, I said that. A Swiss. Okay, a Swiss. So five non-Brazilians in the class, right? In the Philippe's class, we have a Spaniard, a Chinese, and an Australian, right? And across the 5 schools, we have more than 20 nationalities. The class that started last year has 22 different nationalities across the 5 schools. And across the 5 schools, around 100 students, right? So after the first opening week, they come to their schools, have classes there for 6 months, but as they are taking classes locally, they are running projects globally, right? Philippe, there are global projects. So we had a global project in leadership, another in operations, another in marketing, another in finance. LAMGO is what we call leading and managing global organizations. Finance, and now they are finished. They're having a global course on strategy. And I happen to be a strategy professor, right? So in global courses, the students are put together in teams of 6 or 7, as diverse as possible. So if there is one Brazilian there will not be another one. So if there is an engineer, there will be then a lawyer, a doctor, a psychologist, right? If somebody is from the retail industry, another person, another member of the team will be from the banking industry, another from energy, and so on. So very different backgrounds, very different experiences in the same team. And then they change it. 7 months later, they change to another global team, and they have to, take a global project and decide how to do that. So, as a professor of strategy, I mentor 4 global teams. Each of my other 4 colleagues, they mentor 4 global teams each, right? And we go together, right? Having the students develop their global projects, right? So along the 21 months, you really learn how to work in very diverse teams. So you become very sensitive to different cultures, right? Different ways of thinking. A lawyer thinks completely different from an engineer, right? Okay, right. So let me see, for example, where have you graduated? Who is not a lawyer or an engineer? Who is not? Not a lawyer or an engineer. So that's it. So you probably could be right? In the same team as them, right? Right? So to compose a very diverse ways of seeing business and different ways to judge success, different ways to lead, to deal with time, right? To give feedback, we discussed a lot about that, how to give feedback and how to receive feedback. And actually, one of the distinctive points of one MBA is the peer reviews, peer assessments. Students assess colleagues 13 times along the program. Twice in each global course, there are 5 global courses, that makes 10 times. And in 3 global residencies, right? On the 4th one, we don't have that self-assessment. The last residency, of course, the last day is a party, right? We really, now you work a lot during the week, but last day, right, we you know, I also have fun on that very last day, right? Okay, so maybe, Lauren, maybe you could start now. At the end, of course, I'll be here and talk more about the One MBA, and please.
Because I start here and after start in China because I have business in China, so I live here and I have parts in China.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's the beauty of the consortium. You can start at a school and then move to another school, as long as you finish a complete module. So if you start in Brazil, you have to take the first 6 months in Brazil. Then you can go to any of the other 4 schools and at least 6 months there to complete a full module. Come back. Can. And you get a certificate from the 5 schools, but the one where you got at least 2 modules completed is, let's say, the school you graduated from. But you can do that. Okay. Perfect. So, Lauren, you introduce yourself. We'll do that much better than I could.
Not a problem.
You have a very interesting personal history, right? And also a lot of challenges to talk about, right? A lot of lessons learned, and a lot of lessons still to learn, right?
Yes, totally.
Okay, so
thank you so much,
thank you very
Georgie,
much
for your time. I appreciate.
I thank you. Right? Okay, so.
Appreciate it. All right, so thank you everyone for showing up today on a rainy day. Once more, everything happened for a reason. Talking about everything happened for a reason. Normally, the presenter should be arriving before everyone else, right? Where what ended up happening is that I was almost the last one arriving because, of course, the traffic, right? The classic story. So you gotta learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's exactly what I had to deal with for me to kind of get here. So once more, thank you for your time. I'm just gonna put a timer just to make sure that I am actually on time with the presentation. Try to respect the timing. So tonight, I'm going to be changing your perspective about fear. But first, I would like to get the commitment from everyone to play full out with me tonight with this presentation. If I ask you to get engaged with me, please get engaged with me for us to get the best of this experience. Everyone agrees on that? Yeah. Fantastic, awesome. So I'm gonna start by taking you through a journey. This is a beach in Phuket. Actually, I was there. Fantastic place. I want to get you to imagine that you are on the beach. And just for a minute, let me please ask you, now that you have saw the picture, to close your eyes just for a minute, please. So imagine that you are on that beach. And imagine that you are walking around and you feel the air, the warmth of the air on your face. The weather is not so cold, not so hot, just perfect. And everyone, you decide to take a seat and maybe meditate for a bit. Imagine that your toes are sinking into the sand and you can feel the softness and the warmth of the sand. Imagine that you are hearing the waves breaking against the shore. And you take a deep breath and you exhale. And you're feeling so comfortable and so serene. Just perfect. Exactly where you want to be. One more time, let me ask you to take a deep breath and exhale. So what was that? Thank you for playing full out with me here. You just experienced fear. What was that all about? I mean, we are sitting in a room, completely safe. We're not being chased up by a lion, a tiger, or a cheetah. But yet, we still experience fear. Sometimes fear is in our mindset. It shows up in times where it doesn't make sense. It's that what just happened now is your body reaction to this loud noise that just happened. And obviously, the amygdala went on hyper alert mode, and all kind of symptoms started happening to your body. But it doesn't make sense. So, at the end of the day, fear is actually a mindset. If we manage to change that mindset, we might be able to manage to alter our reaction to fear. And what I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to take you through a paradigm and some tools that's going to enable you to confront your fear in a different way in the future. But first, I want to take you through my experience with fear. I grew up in a war zone. This is actually sandbags behind me. I grew up in Beirut, Lebanon, in the middle of the Civil War, and where fear was running through my veins. Every day, I had to work out how I'm going to be able to make it to the following day. That was me and many other people who were living there, obviously. But what a great way to stay present in the moment, right? So I remember this time when I was 13 years old. I was crossing the borders to go from one side of the city to the other side of the city. And through that borders, we have to walk through landmines. I was 13 years old. And I was crossing the border with my mom and my siblings. We were very young, myself and my siblings. And I was carrying a load, and it was so freaking heavy. And I was worried that if I drop this load, I'll be wiping out my entire family and me at the same time. Growing there taught me about how to deal with fear on a daily basis, as I mentioned. It also taught me about appreciating life, appreciating having a life. And when you have to deal with that type of fear on a daily basis, you know, your outlook towards life becomes completely different. I had a very strong and very large ambition that my home country could not contain it. So I decided to leave Lebanon and move overseas to follow my, aspiration, my life aspiration. So I ended up moving to Australia. And I arrived there as an international student. I wanted to stay there. I fell in love with the place. It was everything that I wanted. But it was impossible. I could not stay there. I would be finishing my education, and I'm going to have to leave the country after that. So I had to become resourceful. So what I did, I ended up trying to understand what were the type of skills that are required by the immigration department for the past 10 years that haven't changed. And I ended up choosing to become a cook. So I started to become a cook. And I did that for 2 years after I graduated from an MBA. Ironically, right? So that wasn't my aspiration in life, but that was something that I had to do in order for me to get to the desire that I want, which is staying in that place and making it my home country. And that's exactly what happened. After 2 years, with a lot of hassle, I managed to stay there, and that, I made Australia my new country, so to speak. I lived there for many years, and then this is when I started learning about, transformation, about crossing the line of fear, about taking risks in life. Because there was a lot of high risk. And I would be getting to lose 2 years of my life and a lot of money, and obviously, it may work, it may not work. It was a bit of a stab in the dark, as they say. Let me talk to you about the paradigm of what I call the best version of you formula. We all start with a comfortable place in our life. This is a place where we confidently operate in the status quo. We know exactly what we're doing. We know everything that is happening, be it in your career, in your life, in the place that you live in the country that you are living in. This is your place where you are feeling comfortable. And then comes a desire of some sort. And that desire, it's something that you want to achieve in your life, like an aspiration. You want to change something. You want to let go of something that is not serving you, be it a relationship or whatever it is. And depending on how high is the stake or how much risk you're going to be taking, if you have too much of a competitive advantage to lose, or you have too much risk to take, you're going to be confronted by fear. And in a lot of cases, once more, if the risk is too high, what ends up happening, people go back to their comfortable state. And that can become a vicious circle where people stay in that vicious circle for years. They stay in that vicious circle for years until they start getting anxious. They start feeling that they are not fulfilled. They start feeling that, something is missing in their life. They have that kind of burning sensation that is conflicting them from within. In my case, I was feeling stuck at some point. After I started, living in the new country, in my new home, I end up, working my way up through the corporate ladder, and I secured a role with a very interesting company, Toyota. I was there for several years, and it was a secure job with a lot of perks, and it was very comfortable for me to stay there. And a lot of people connected with me, and they wanted to, get to know about the product, because it's a very interesting product for some people, right? We're talking about cars. So, but I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And why is that? I believe if we're going to be finding a job that would fulfill us, your own values and the company's values has to be aligned. In my case, I'm glad that most of you agreed. I can see everyone nodding their head. In my case, my value was to become an international person. I wanted to become a global person. Unfortunately, at that time, and everything happened for a reason, right? The company could not help me, or I could not get the support in order for me to move overseas and start my expatriation journey. But at the same time, the stakes were very high, and there was a lot of risk. And I could not just, let go of a secure job and a potential promotion that was coming up around the corner for me to actually take a leap of faith into something that I don't know what it is, just because I wanted to travel. It just didn't make sense. That's the word. It didn't make sense. Here's another example. This is Dr. Sam Coe. Dr. Sam Coe, he's a classic example of a medical doctor who have worked his way up to get to become a associate medical director for a chain of hospitals in California. He had a career that is well paved up in front of him, and he was about to get a promotion to become a medical director for that same chain of hospitals. But the guy had a dream, and he had this desire that he wanted to become an entrepreneur, and he wanted to deal with innovative medicine. So, but at the same time, he was confronted by fear. The stakes were very high. There was too much risk for him because he will be disappointing his family, he will be disappointing his superiors at work, and perhaps everyone around him. So it may not work. So what happened when people who are stuck in this vicious circle, what happened after a while? This desire, I'm going to use the analogy of a flame. Imagine the desire is a flame that is burning inside of you, and it has been flickering for a long time. Therefore, the burning sensation is not quite stable. And this desire, at some point, that flame is going to stabilize, and the burning sensation is going to start hurting more, and the pain is going to be a bit more significant. Think about it. What's in your life today where you have the burning sensation is starting to increase more and more and more and more? And I talk about the context of career, but it could be everything and anything, right? So what happens? Obviously, people get to feel anxious, you start attracting all kind of mental and emotional sickness, anxiety, depression, panic. I had my share of that, and I will share with you. So it gets to a stage where the pain is so strong, so much so, that you feel it's about do or die. And this is when people, because of the significant pain that they are experiencing here, they get to decide that enough is enough. I'm going to take that leap of faith. There was a saying in Portuguese, I'm not going to say it in Portuguese because I'm not super fluent, but what I do know is that when you put your first step on an empty floor, the floor is going to show up, right? So taking that leap of faith, in my case, and in a lot of people's case, was a result of so much pain, of staying between desire and fear, or being in that vicious circle. But once you cross that line of fear, you get to transformation. And whether you like it or not, the moment you cross that line of fear, be it letting go of a relationship that doesn't serve you, or changing your job, or changing your career, in my case, changing countries, automatically, you're going to be crossing the line of fear and you're going to start a transformation. Things will change. And then our job is to adapt to that change by going back to feeling comfortable in that new normal, in that new space. And this is not a cycle. This actually is an upward spiral where you are feeling comfortable here, you cross the line of fear, and you get to transformation, and now you have a new comfort. So as you can see that you are expanding more and more and evolving more as you are moving from one experience to another, from one line of fear to another. Your comfort will expand. You start evolving. You start becoming a better version of yourself. So going back to my story, I got to a stage where I was really feeling unfulfilled. I had this burning desire. But I knew that the stakes were very high and there was too much risk. But once I got to a stage where I was borderline going into depression, that I really wanted to follow that passion, I decided to make it happen and become resourceful. So that's how I end up getting my job with Louis Vuitton. And it was a lot of risk. The first job that I got with Louis Vuitton, and you will see now, was in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates. So I moved from Australia to Dubai, from one industry to another, from one culture to another, not knowing whether it's going to work or not, not knowing whether I'm doing the right thing or not, not knowing what is expecting me on the other side of the borders of that country. But what I was driven by is for me to become an international person. And boy, did I become an international person. I lived in 5 countries, and I traveled to many, many, many more through this experience. It's been 10 years and such a rewarding experience. Back to our friend, Dr. Sam. Dr. Sam was really feeling unhappy and also unfulfilled. He wanted to become an entrepreneur. But then he started experiencing a different kind of fear, the fear of regret. The fear of disappointment was a fear from outside in, people's judgment towards you. But the fear of regret is from inside out, where you don't want to live a life to other people's terms. You want to live a life on your own terms. So he took the leap of faith and he ventured out and he started a ketamine infusion clinic where he is treating people who have depression, anxiety, and PTSD through ketamine infusion based in California. The guy became a key person of influence in that industry, completely innovative medical practice, and fulfilled once more. So what I'm trying to get here to, that in my example, or the example of Dr. Sam, I had a desire, then I was feeling pain, then I was feeling fear, then I was coming back to my comfort. And that took some time until the pain became so strong, and then I crossed the line of fear. And that transformation was obviously a positive one. So is it correct to say that everything that you ever want is on the other side of fear? So this is your desire, and this is your fear. Everything that you want, which is the transformation, is on the other side of fear, guys. But I want to talk to you a bit about how really could you blast through your fears? What kind of tools that you can utilize in order for you to blast through your fear, to confront your fear in a better way? Wouldn't that be interesting? So before I talk about that, I want to talk to you about a notion that I've realized. In our brain, in our thoughts, there is something that I like to call the fearlessness muscle. And this fearlessness muscle get to grow. It's that small window of opportunity, of courage that you have in your brain, where the moment you cross the line of fear, that window start expanding. And that fearlessness muscle start expanding. We have control, certain things we have control of. There's other things we don't have control of. The things that I believe we have control of in our life is our actions, the actions that we take. We have control over that. So if we take sufficient and right actions to, cultivate that fearlessness muscle, wouldn't that be great in order for us to start confronting our next episode of fear that we're going to be facing? So what are the foundations that you can have in order for you to confront that massive fear that you're going to be facing next time in your life? The first thing I want to talk about is discipline. Discipline enables you to be a bit more assertive when it comes to decision making in your life. Discipline gives you the laser sharp focus for you to start becoming resourceful, and how can you take the right steps for you to cross the line of fear. Discipline will make you more emotionally stable as well, to handle the fear once you are confronted with the fear. And it gives you also clarity. But the other thing that is related to discipline is raising your standard, guys. In our life today, there's a lot of things that are, I would call a should. Like, I should go to the gym. I should be eating healthier. I should be walking every day. I should be exercising and all that kind of stuff. But if I have this burning desire that I need to get fitter. I need to get to a, physical shape that is what I really want. That should be turning into a must. As long as this should is a should and it's not becoming part of your DNA, that's a must. It's a must that I need to research, the next job that I want to be getting to. It's a must that I need to really work out how can I move to a desire that is burning me and killing me from inside. You have control over your actions, guys. And there is some things that I use to kind of nurture my discipline. And for example, the routines and the rituals that we do. In my case, I have a small routine that I call the 30-day challenge. And I do that every other month just to give myself a break. And, not to be too hard on myself, right? And it's about challenging yourself for something that, normally you wouldn't want to do. But you challenge yourself and discipline yourself to do it for 30 days. And at the back of that, it might become a permanent thing that it becomes in your life, a permanent routine. They say it takes 21 days for things to become a habit. So stretch it out a bit and do it for 30 days. Just as a suggestion. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the theory of 2 millimeters. What is that all about? So imagine that you have a plane that is going from Europe heading to Japan. And imagine that at the departure, that plane went off track by 2 millimeters from the departure. The plane, instead of arriving to Japan, it will arrive to Australia. This is how much a 2 millimeter change today would amplify as a result in your future. This is a story of Drasko. Drasko was a engine assembly blue-collar operator in Germany, global plant for Mercedes-Benz. He was working there for many years. Drasko had no education, no formal education, but Drasko had a lot of passion and a lot of drive to grow from his space of being a blue-collar worker. He strongly believed that this is not where I belong. But the fear that he was confronted with was the fear of not being worthy. I'm not worthy. I'm a blue-collar worker. I'm not educated. How could I become a white-collar worker one day? That was his aspiration. But what he ended up doing, he started taking 2 millimeters towards his desire. Every day he shows up to work, he was doing one step, at least one step, over and beyond what a factory operator would do. And this one steps got him to learn a lot over and beyond his vocation. And eventually, he became the #1 operator within 250 operators within the line of production of engines assembly. And then he becomes the #1 operator within 1,000 operators within the actual plant altogether of Mercedes-Benz in Germany. Until he got to a stage where today the guy is a lean consultant and a global trainer for Mercedes-Benz. And he'll be arriving to Brazil, in fact, tomorrow. He wanted to make this presentation. So how did he do that? One step at a time. In cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, they talk about how do they treat traumas for little kids. If you have an elephant that you gotta eat, God forbid, you don't eat it in one bite. You eat it in small bite sizes, so to speak. So in CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy, they get kids to take small steps, baby steps towards reaching or getting closer to that trauma that they are dealing with, to that fear that they are dealing with. The other thing that I wanted to talk about here is what I call community of OQP, only quality people. They say that you are the average of the 5 closest people that you know. You are the average of the 5 closest people that you know. Their character, their behavior, the way they think, the way they operate, the way they live their life. If you surround yourself with a community that gets what you want, perhaps they have already crossed the line of fear that you want to cross, they're going to be able to support you with your journey of crossing the line of fear. They're going to be able to help you to understand what is it that you should be avoiding, what is it that you should be, disabling yourself from doing, so to speak. Imagine you want to go to the gym and you want to get to your best, shape as well. I keep on coming back to that notion, don't judge me because I'm not in my best shape today, Another fear to confront. So you will end up performing better and getting better results if you have a trainer who knows exactly where are your potential weaknesses and where you are going wrong with your training, obviously. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the fear setting exercise. This is an exercise that I've done several times, super interesting. It was actually created by Tim Ferriss. He is a podcaster and a writer for self-help books, basically. So how does that work? They say that fear tends to clouds our thinking. We feel that we are, looking at this huge beast and we don't see anything else other than that beast, obviously, right? But because of that, we get to exaggerate too much on the impact of what that fear can do on us. And we tend to underestimate so much the potential positive effect of crossing that line of fear. What can it do for us? And we get to oversee or ignore what could happen if we don't do anything. If you stay stuck in that vicious circle, what could happen? So this is a very interesting tool that can actually help you to unpack your fear, try to understand, break it down to the cellular level, understand what could be the ramification and the effect of me facing and confronting that fear and taking that risk. Just to take you quickly through the steps, if you don't mind. Would that be cool? Perfect. So the first step is to unpack your fear. Very straightforward. You take your fear and you define it. You get specific on what are the worst case scenario that could happen to you if you actually take that risk. What are the worst case scenario? And get to rate every single one of them and get as specific as possible. And try to understand for each one of them that you have rated, and here I put an example of someone trying to become an entrepreneur. He's defining what are the worst case scenario that can happen to him. How could he prevent all these worst case scenario? And in case it happens, how could you repair it? That's actually the first step. The second step is to try to understand what are the wins. Because we focus so much on the negative, we oversee, what if that works? What if that works? What if that massive risk that I'm going to take, it actually works? What could be the benefit from that? And if I take the same example of the entrepreneur, what could be the benefit, even if it's a partial success? Even if it's a partial success, what could be the benefit? The last step would be about, what if I don't do anything? What could happen? If I don't do anything, what could happen to me at the emotional level, at the physical level, and at the financial level? What is the cost of inaction? And this should set you up to realize that what could you actually be missing out on if you don't take that risk. So by doing this kind of exercise, which is the goal setting, it would really help you to break down your fear to small pieces, bite sizes. And then by rating each one of the specific worst case scenario, then you would realize that maybe it's not so bad. Maybe it's not so bad. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is an experience that I've had. This is an experience that I've had recently with paracaida, skydiving, sorry. The night before, when I was laying down in my bed, all what I can think about is what could go wrong. All what I can think about is what if the parachute doesn't open? What if I get stuck in the helicopter that I'm going to be jumping from? What if? All kind of negative thoughts. All kind of negative thoughts. I showed up the following day to the skydiving site. It was in Rio de Janeiro. And the guy who was behind me, he was giving me the briefing. Like, how does it work? And I'm standing there, and of course, I'm not even listening to what the guy is saying because I'm completely in my head, scared, not knowing what the heck is going to happen with me next and today. The only thing I heard from him saying is that in case the parachute doesn't open, and I'm like, why are you even telling me this, you know? Why are you even sharing this with me? I don't even want to know as this is a possibility, you know? I might as well put a helmet and do a skydive. Like, how is it going to help me if I put a helmet and skydive if the parachute doesn't open? What's the point, right? What's the point? So we gone through the whole thing, and it's time to get strapped together. We were like really strapped together, like a kind of a very intimate strap. I don't even know that. I like that. Dude, do you do this more often, like all the time? He goes, yeah. So we crawled into this helicopter, and I'm laying down on him. And I'm like, okay, this is not really, common, right? And we started flying. It was in Baja. And we get to 12,000 feet of altitude. 12,000 feet, 3 kilometers height. And the helicopter was very small. And there was no doors. At 12,000 feet, 3 kilometer heights, it's actually cold. So beyond the fact that I'm freaking out, and beyond the fact that, everything can go wrong and I'm, really, really uncomfortable, I was really freezing. So it got to a stage where the guy told me, okay, now you crawl out. Now you crawl out, and we stand on the ledge of the helicopter. And let me take you through a small journey, and this time I promise you there won't be any experiment. In my mind's eye, what was going on. So close your eye for a second, please. And imagine, I promise nothing's gonna happen. I give you my word. But just imagine that you are standing on the ledge of this helicopter, and all kind of fearful thoughts are going in your head. What could go wrong? What could go wrong? Terror, 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 terror. And you're looking down, and all what you can see is death staring at you. Terror, terror, terror. And it's not very common for people to just stand there on the ledge of a helicopter at the 12,000 feet height. You're shaking, your blood is pumping, your heart is really, really, really pumping, and everything is really uncomfortable. And the guy says to you, I'm going to count to 3, and I'm going to push you. 3, 2, 1, and you fall. And in a split of a second, the sensation of falling turns into a sensation of flying. You are flying. You are no longer falling. It's the best feeling that you can ever experience in your life. You're flying. It's amazing. You're flying, guys. You are screaming, you are yelling, you are happy, you're crying, you don't know what's going on inside of you. You're flying. And that goes for 28 seconds of free flying, not falling. So now you can open your eyes and see what was my experience. But what was that all about? What was that all about? In the moment of maximum danger, which is when I started falling, was the moment of minimum fear. The moment of maximum danger was the moment of minimum fear. Up until the point that we together are standing on the ledge of the helicopter, we had no real reason to be afraid. There was no physical, tangible reason for us to be afraid. Nothing is happening to us other than feeling cold. It's all in our head. And the moment that we should be actually afraid was the most blissful moment that you have had in your life. You were flying. So where else does that show up in our life? Where else does that show up in our life? Where we are trying to cross the line of fear and we are only focused on what can go wrong. How many times that happened in your life, guys? Where you're trying to cross the line of fear, and when you took that leap of faith and you look back, and it's the best place you want to be in your life. This is where you belong. On the other side of fear. God gave us everything that we want on the other side of fear. Anyone wants to see the video before I complete? Yeah? Okay.
Morning, guys. Putting myself in a big state because shit is about to go down here. I'm gonna be jumping off a plane, skydiving. It's something I've always wanted to do. It has been on my bucket list for years. It's always been on the back burner. And you know, the time to do things that we always wanted to do is right now. They say everything you ever wanted is on the other side of fear. And I have been living most of my life on that thin line between fear and safety, dabbling between the two. You know, testing the water, see what suits me better. But it's time to change. I have pledged to raise my standards. And raising my standards is obviously maintaining the level of intensity that I have always had, but I don't want this to plateau. This experience is actually going to enable me to continue, you know, have that high level of energy. Literally. Am I scared? Fuck yeah, I'm scared shitless. But do I want to do it? Yes, I do. So wish me luck, and I'll see you guys on the other side of fear. Shit is about to go down, guys. Fucking luck.
My voice is completely low here. Excuse the profanity, huh? with the emotion and everything you can imagine, right? So, so just to kind of conclude here, my ask from you, my wish to you, is to take these small 2-millimeter steps towards the fear or towards the risk that you've been contemplating to take for a long time in your life. My wish for you is to realize that everything that happened to you in life, the good and the bad, is actually a gift. And I just want you to, know that everything really that you ever wanted is on the other side of fear. And sometimes it's interesting for our growth to feel comfortable being uncomfortable. Feeling comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's how you get to the better version of yourself. Guys, I want to thank you so much for your listening to me and for playing out full with me today. And I hope that you have enjoyed this presentation from my life experience. Would love to connect with you on the social media where I get to put a lot of content. And in fact, I'm going to be putting a blog post related to this presentation. So thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Muito obrigado.
So please, they ask questions, they share experiences, right?
If anyone want to make a comment, anyone want to ask a question, anyone want to make any kind of contribution, feel free. Would you like to come and see me later? That would be great. But what I would like to ask from you is if can all of us take a picture together before you leave. I would really be grateful for that. It's just another experience for me.
Yes.
He cannot come here, so Luciana, come also here, so let's come here together with Laura.
Okay, take that way.
Laura, maybe take from there. Let me see.
Showing everyone?
Yeah, and you
Yes, I can. Sure. Should I be jumping or something? Or
it's a small jump for you, right? Let somebody just take the picture. Yeah, pode tirar uma foto da gente? Obrigado. Aí pega a tua papel aqui. And Laura, something I really like is that when we have a purely fire here, that helps present, that's not happening, that helps prepare. But then there's also the action, right? There must be action. So the first one is how to define your fear, how to prevent your fear, and how to do your best if it actually happens. So then the next one is what if things happen right? What if something actually works on the risk of failure? And the last one is comfort reaction, which is what would you do? What would happen to you mentally, emotionally, physically, financially if you don't do anything in the next 6 months of your life, the next 1 year? If you stay in your comfort zone, if you stay in your comfort zone, may not be so comfortable for some time. Exactly. And it's interesting if you can project that in your mind, you can see it. So how do you do that? So how can you do that? Luciana is our manager of the admissions office, all programs up in the school, right? So Adriana runs that. Ricardo works with me in institutional relations of One MBA. And Viviane, where's Viviane? Viviane is the program manager of One MBA for FGV, right? We have a program manager for each school, and an academic director for each school. So come here also. So, Lord has a photographer. Okay, can you get all of us?
I think he wants everyone, yeah?
Yes.
So we should go back.
Maybe here so you can get everybody.
If you have something different in mind, we can have another take.
Sure.
Like outside.
Can you get everybody?
these 30-day challenges. I'm curious to find out what kinds of things are on your list of those 30 days.
You know what? There is a whole community out there on the web that are doing this 30-day challenge. And there is even websites we can say 1,000 idea of 30-day challenge. So like the last one that I had was to have a cold shower every day for 30 days. And this is something I got from Wim Hof. I'm not sure if everyone heard about him, but I think he is somewhere from Europe. And he is doing this methodology where he's always kind of bathing himself in ice, and the effect of that has on your body in terms of anti-inflammatory effect and all that kind of stuff. But that's just the blast that you had where it kind of starts circulating your blood in a very intense way. So that's one thing. The other thing is meditation, for example, that I do every day for 30 days. It depends. Sometimes I would say I want to take, let's say, 1,000 steps per day. Or this is the kind of thing that you would do. And what is interesting, which is a kind of a small addition that I put on there, is what value, because honoring our values every day and reminding yourself which value have you honored yourself most on that day, it's very interesting. So I keep a free field, or I would leave a comment where I would say, what value have I honored today? And by the end of the day, you would start creating, after several weeks, you start creating a chain, of ticks, tick, 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 tick. And you don't want to break that chain because you see it and you are proud of it. After one day, 15 days, 20 days, you are proud of it and you don't want to stop it. And when you finish that, it's almost like a ritual finishing. And you are, crossing into a new ritual, which is another 30-day challenge. And a lot of the things actually stick and become a habit. And the key with the 30-day challenge is to choose habits that you've always wanted to do, but you have been ignoring yourself to do it. And this is how it actually sticks, because you believe in it. I really want to do that. I really want to go to the gym. I keep on giving the example of the gym, but I really want to do that thing, for example. So super interesting. Anyone else? Please. Sure.
Laurent, which are the big or worst or more difficult challenges on your journey from an automotive company to a very high level consumer product like Louis Vuitton?
Louis Vuitton. Good question. I guess the biggest challenges is, I remembered when I moved from Toyota to Louis Vuitton, you're moving from an industry that is extremely structured. It's almost working for the government because you're dealing with a product. If something goes wrong, people will die. As simple as that. If something goes wrong with the brake of the car, with anything in the car, people can die. So the level of bureaucracy, the level of, checks that needs to happen to the cellular level at every single step of your job, and there's so many authorities, so many, approvals and so on, to go from that dimension to the fashion, where, products are being created almost on daily basis. You have new lines of product, you have a new line of models and everything. So it's extremely dynamic, extremely, active, and it's extremely entrepreneurial environment that you work in, basically. So going from something extremely, organized and bureaucratic, almost like working for government, like I said, to something that is on the other side of the spectrum. It was a bit of a cultural shock for me, that it took me some time for me to kind of adapt to it, so to speak. I guess this is the biggest one.
With your job at Toyota, with your job at Louis Vuitton, you used your MBA, it sounds like. Did you use your MBA at your job at Toyota also?
I did, in fact. In fact, it was a very intimidating environment. Everyone was there like super smart and super educated, and they had all kind of education. And I don't think anyone have decided to become a cook like me. But yeah, no, totally. MBA kind of enabled me to start thinking outside the box. And with all the kind of high-level reports and sophisticated kind of reports that you get to create in MBA, it helped me with creating a kind of a foundation that whenever I'm communicating with executives, whenever I'm communicating with people at the high level at Toyota, so to speak, I was able to use these skills in order for me to kind of communicate with them. And also at the same time about research, because Toyota, a lot of the work that we get to do is research related. So you get research is internal research, right? Is within the company. So you get data from everywhere, from all kind of departments, from production, from development, from engineering, from marketing, because I was in charge of controlling the marketing division, so to speak. And you try to construct all of these in one, big report, so to speak. And your capability and the learning that I've had from the MBA of researching and coming up with one report, basically, certainly helped me a lot. Yeah. You have a question?
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for sharing your life experience with us, Laurent.
Thank you so
much.
much.
Very interesting. My question is, what is your next fear that you're tackling? Like 10 years ago, I think it was one of your biggest fears that you broke through. You moved countries, you moved culture, etc. What's
Yeah.
next one that you're looking at?
Also a good question. The fear that I'm confronting right now is actually crossing the line of corporate. So I have an aspiration to move to eventually do something as an entrepreneur. So it's a massive jump, and it takes a lot of this work that I've been talking about, because we are in a very comfortable place, in a golden cage, sometimes, or maybe not, and I want to try. I want to try. How does it look like for me to actually venture out and become an entrepreneur? Perhaps incorporating exactly what I'm doing right now. So, yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. Over here.
Hi. So
Would be great if everyone can mention their name before they ask the questions, just to kind of get more acquainted with everyone.
Okay, so I'm Larissa.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
I'd like to hear a little bit more of your view on the cosmetics segment in Brazil or Latin America in general. I know Louis Vuitton has many segments and many categories of products. But Sephora is coming, and I think is like the most, I don't know, close to the general consumer brand that I know, at least. So I'd like to hear a little bit about the challenges you've been facing here, what you think is interesting, what's going on in the industry, anything you find interesting that's going on of your perceptions.
No, totally. If I want to speak about cosmetic specifically, it's a very competitive environment. I mean, it's a very competitive market here in Brazil and South America at the same time. The consumer behavior is actually, interacting between the local market as well as the international market, because the local market for cosmetic for Brazil is fairly sophisticated to some extent, the challenges that that international companies in general that they have when it comes to selling whether cosmetic or perfumes or that kind of line of product is the importation. And here we're talking about the taxes that we're going to be dealing with, especially in Brazil, and you guys know better than me. So the taxes can go up sometimes to 300% of the product cost. 300% of the product cost. So therefore, the pricing position that you have is going to be completely non-competitive if you are a consumer that is traveling constantly outside of Brazil. So for many international companies, they get to compete with their own company, but outside of Brazil, so to speak. So I guess this is the most competitive kind of part of operating with the cosmetic industry. And the other thing is that whether cosmetic, whether fashion, or any kind of retail is completely diverse nowadays, and it started to, products are starting to get produced, new products, like a whole new product are starting to get produced depending on if you're speaking about fast fashion or you're speaking about luxury fashion. If you're speaking about fast fashion, it might be every single day you might have a new product, and even the product before they even launch, they are already being communicated in the market. Because of the social media, they speak about if you have a fashion show and there was a catwalk happening, someone from the invitees, they would take a picture of that fashion dress, for example, and they post on the Instagram, they say within 24 hours, someone from the competitors will be able to copy that dress within 24 hours. So this is how dynamic, whether the fashion or the retail industry is becoming. Huh? Hope that answered that question. You had a question?
Hi, I'm Julia. First of all, I want to really thank you on the lecture. I think it was one of the most
Appreciate it.
inspiring ones. I wanted to ask you, I think, maybe your opinions or views on sustainability in fashion, because I think nowadays fashion is such a big polluter and has such a big impact on the climate. And I know Louis Vuitton, at least from what I remember, the fashion pact from last year that was signed from a lot of different brands, like Adidas, Prada and stuff, a lot of them signed, and as far as I remember, Louis Vuitton didn't. I know it's not fast fashion, so it doesn't have maybe the same impact, but sustainability is still such a strong thing nowadays, and I think everyone still kind of has a concern about the planet, so I wanted to know if you have, like, what are your thoughts on it, and what are your thoughts on it, and how Louis Vuitton maybe is tackling that issue in a way.
Sure. You talk about sustainability.
Yeah.
Right. It's a very interesting notion. In fact, now more than ever, sustainability is starting to become a serious topic within at least the fashion industry. They say that fashion industry is the #2 contributor of waste in the whole world after that series. She's worried about me. How is that presentation going? Sorry. So the fashion industry is the #2 contributor of waste in the world after oil and gas. After oil and gas, they say that 6 out of 10 human in the world either working directly or indirectly serving the fashion industry. So it has so much impact, and here I'm talking fashion industry in general. It has so much impact that there need to be some awareness. And I can tell you already, whether governments, tax authorities, they're going down really hard on fashion houses, trying to regularize and get them to become a bit more conscious when it comes to sustainability, so to speak. And Business of Fashion, which is a magazine that always talk about fashion, and it's a very kind of a eminent one. They did a research that in the last 2 years, the term that are most utilized in the fashion industry is digital and sustainability. And they've been growing double-digit, that term, in terms of utilization for the last 2-3 years, basically. So it's definitely something serious, and everyone is taking it on board, for sure.
Thank you.
My question is regarding the topics you were talking about the presentation.
Sure.
By the way you presented, it seems like your goals and your desires, they were more abstract than solid or if like you were targeting something specific. So you said you were trying to change to Sydney or to Australia because you wanted to become an international person, not necessarily focusing on a job. So that's how your life happened. Like the jobs you went from Toyota to Louis Vuitton, did you ever try to move towards a very solid point or a target, or it was more abstract and more a desire or a feeling?
No, good question. To be honest with you, when I first joined the fashion industry, actually, it was more abstract because I really wanted to become an international person. I really wanted to travel the world. I really wanted to become an expatriate. It would have been great if I have the opportunity to remain within the automotive industry because it made sense. I've been there for several years. But at the end of the day, they say everything happened for a reason and never close the door on opportunities, so to speak. So the way I kind of calculated it and how I end up relating to that industry is my upbringing, because my father is a tailor and my mother is a jewelry designer. So I grew up in an environment where my father is dressing up, men with their suit, and my mom is kind of, entertaining people when it comes to jewelry and all that sort of stuff. And that's how I connected with the industry. So something inside of me I was able to kind of find value or find connection with that industry. But the beginning of the journey was certainly abstract. Anyone else? Sure.
Hi, Lauren. Thank you for your sharing today. It's really inspiring. I'm Peggy, but I'm really curious about, like, is there an experience you failed to conquer your fear, and how did you deal with it?
Another good question. No pressure putting me on the spot, but of course, absolutely. I mean, there's many times in my life where I thought that I'm doing the right thing, and it didn't happen. So, for example, when I was in California, because I lived in California, I was working for Louis Vuitton. Before I moved to Brazil, I had the opportunity to actually go ahead and apply for a role in the manufacturing or warehousing environment for a finance director role in a warehousing environment in California, so to speak. And I applied for that role, and I wasn't eligible because I didn't have an intense manufacturing experience. It was more on the retail side, so to speak. And in fact, not even 1 month later after that thing, I got the position of the CFO for South America offered to me. So although it's something that I wanted to do, and I applied for, so to speak, and I wanted to actually make it happen, but it wasn't meant to happen. And maybe, where I would have been there, it's not the same place that I would be here. I remember everything that happened in life, the good and the bad, is a gift for you. And if you see it from that perspective, failures will be a learning, will be part of your growth. And we gotta fail our way to success. They say you gotta fail your way to success. Thomas Edison, they say that he did 1,000 experiments to create the light bulb, and the 1,001 experiment was the one that actually worked. So absolutely no fear from failing, your way to get to what you want.
Thank you.
Anyone else over here?
Hi, thank you. My name is Daniel. It's very straightforward. After spending a couple of years here in Brazil, what are the things that you've learned on a personal and professional level that helps you to confront fear now in 2020?
Here's the thing. By the time I got here, I would have lived in 4 countries in my life, yeah? And by the time I got here, I would be speaking 3 languages already. Not that I am fluent in Portuguese, but still, mais ou menos, no, estou brincando. So until I got here, I thought that I knew everything and anything about expatriation, about being an international person. Wait until you get to Brazil, in an environment which is for fair reasons homogeneous, and the common language is Portuguese, which I don't have that in my DNA. I don't speak Spanish, for example, and it was really, really tough experience in the beginning for me. The fiscal system is out of this world, for a finance person, obviously. So to learn all of this and to get adapted to these things was part of my growth. It stretched me to the bone, to my core, but it was part of my growth. And 4 years and a half almost down the track, have I regretted? Do I regret it? No. And if I end up one day leaving Brazil, Brazil will never leave my heart, and that's for sure. Anyone else? All right.
By the way, we have a course on taxation and tax management in North America. But only in Brazil, of course. You don't need that course in the United States.
I remember we spoke about that.
Only here, right? We have a local flavor. Each school in each region, of course, has their own, trends and so on. Okay, so I would like to thank Laurent, and I'd like everybody to come up here, right, so that we can take a picture, right, because it's going to be much better than the one we took there. So we'll come up here, and then let's say, of course, I'll be glad to talk about the One MBA, but I think maybe people probably are tired and want to go home. So what I'll do is that you have the folder here, right? I'll leave my card with you. Ricardo can also do the same, right? And actually, better talk to Ricardo, Eliane. Ricardo, you have your cards here, business cards here, okay? So Ricardo will give you his business cards, right? And you can get in contact at another moment where we have more time to talk. So I'll be delighted to talk to each and every one of you, right? Okay, of course, but if you want to stay here, and if you want to talk to Felipe can stay. Felipe will be glad also to share his experience, right, as a one MBA student. So let's come up here and take a picture.
And I'll be staying back again. If anyone wants to have a chat with me, I would love to have a chat with you. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. Huh?
Muito obrigado por ter vindo, né? Que legal. Olha, muito obrigado a todos. Okay, thank you very much. Right.